Hello students, welcome to your channel Zebish English Classes. I hope you are good there, and I have picked up this book Ecos today, which is from ISC board for the students of 11th as well as 12th standard. And the story that I'm going to pick up today is the ninth story, The Sound Machine, which has been written by Roald Dahl. So this particular story, as from the title of the story itself, you must have understood that it is regarding sound, and there is something which is a machine. So it is something related to a sound machine. So now what is this story all about? Let us understand in short. So this story, The Sound Machine, is all about the sounds that are not audible to the human ears. As we know that in general, we as human beings have got certain limitations. Although we have been gifted by God a lot of power, a lot of strength, and a lot of talents, everything, like we have got the capability to hear, we've got the capability to see, we can do so many things, but at the same time God has always, not only enabled us with certain gifts but also limited us with those gifts. For example, we have got the ability to hear, but then our hearing capacity is limited, and we as human beings cannot hear after a certain frequency. Like there is a certain frequency beyond which we cannot hear, whether it goes low or it goes high. So we have this, you can say, limitation or confinement, that we can neither listen to a very low pitch sound or a very high pitch sound. We have got a certain limitation and we can hear only up to that. So what happens here in this story, there is a very important character named Klausner, and Klausner is very fond of sounds, due to which he wants to prepare a machine with the help of which all sorts of sounds that are in general not audible to the human ears can be heard. So he wants to do that, and he begins to do that. Now we have to understand a characteristic of a human being in general, that we as human beings again have got a feeling of zest in us. So whatever task we take up in life, or whatever our hearts desire for, so we kind of become passionate for that, and we want to do that, we want to achieve that. But then slowly and gradually at times it happens that our passion changes into obsession. And then we have to understand the difference between passion and obsession. See, passion is something positive. Till you are passionate about something, you would like to make all the possible efforts and endeavors to achieve that goal, to get that, to target that particular thing. But then it happens, as soon as that passion changes into obsession, you tend to uh, even choose a negative track for achieving that particular goal. So we have to understand that it is a very good idea to remain passionate about something, but then we shouldn't ever become obsessed with anything, right? This is something wrong. So here we will see about Klausner, that he becomes obsessed with that idea of creating, or preparing a machine or a device with the help of which even the sounds that are in general not audible to the human ears, they can be heard too. So we see how he gets this idea first, and then he wants to execute this idea, and how he does everything to execute this idea. He has got a box and he's trying to prepare a machine, and then he's caught by his friend, who is a doctor, and then it is revealed to him as well, this idea. So this is how we see that Glossner, very passionately, ardently, has been continuously working upon that idea to prepare a machine with the help of which all sorts of sounds, even the sounds that are probably made by the plants, being living things, all such sounds will be heard by such a machine, which was an idea of Glossner. So we see that he tries his best to prepare that, and eventually it is prepared as well. Now we must understand about this story from this much of the discussion of the story, that this story is a science fiction. Now, how it is a science fiction? First of all, it is a fiction just because we are talking about a machine that can hear even the sounds that are in general. Matlab, with the help of which, I mean to say, we are talking about the machine with the help of which we as human beings can hear the sounds that we cannot hear with our bare ears or naked ears. So we cannot hear such sounds, like they must have got low pitch or they must have got very high pitch. Due to that, we have got that limitation and we cannot hear them. But then Klausner is going to claim that this particular machine will help a human being to hear even such sounds. So what happens that this is something which hasn't yet been done, in the real world. There's no such machine, there's no such technology with the help of which we as human beings can listen beyond our natural capacity. So on that ground, we can say that this is a fiction and this is not true, and this is not realistic. But then at the same time, since it is related to science, it is a science fiction because there is something happening in the form of a technology and all, and there is always a hope of more and more advancement and technological development in the field of science. So basically, this story is a science fiction which is somewhere lying between reality as well as illusion. So we can see that there is a concept that arises in the mind of a person who wants to conceive that idea and then also execute that idea, and also takes all the required measures for that, and then even that idea becomes successful once it is executed, because he's able to prepare a machine, and under his impression he has prepared a machine which is actually working as well. So he tries to now capture the different sounds that he thinks that couldn't be heard earlier. So it will happen in the story very interestingly, and it will be very funny how the story goes and how Klausner would like to check the working of the machine. And then there is a neighbor of Mr. Klausner who will become a kind of a victim to his entire mechanism, and she is Mrs. Saunders, and Mrs. Saunders will get victimized. And we see that she would would come out of her house to just pick some flowers, and as she picks the flowers and it is seen by Klausner, and Klausner gets to hear a very cracking, a very shocking sound. So it happens that Klausner gets under this impression that the sound is nothing but the pain of that flower, and it's a painful cry of that flower that was picked by this lady, and therefore Klausner would ask her to do it again, and then she would do it again, and he would coincidentally again hear the same sound. And this is how he gets under this impression for sure that the machine has started working very nicely, and now he would be able to hear all such sounds which were so far not possible for human ears to listen. So this is how the story goes ahead. So we see that after Mrs. Saunders even goes back to her house, he continues with his experiment, and he continues to do that, and he tries to find out various other sounds. And then another day he goes to a park where he strikes his axe at a branch of a tree, and then he finds again kind of a sound which is very weird and which is very horrible. And then he wants to take the assistance of his friend Dr. Scott to realize that the machine has started working, which was his idea. So he calls the doctor and he wants the doctor to listen to that sound, and he wants to do that experiment again. And this time, once the doctor has also arrived at that place and he wants to do that experiment, and he simply strikes again at the branch, and then it happens that unfortunately that tree breaks down and it falls down onto the machine itself, and the machine gets destroyed. And with the destruction of the machine, this protagonist of the story, Mr. Klausner, also gets shattered. just because his last hope, you can say, of proving himself and proving this machine the authentication that the machine had started working, it had failed. And it was intolerable by Klausner, just because we see that Klausner had already become obsessed with his idea for the different sounds. So we see that eventually Klausner failed to prove the authentication of his machine to the doctor, and therefore he got kind of mad. And in this gesture or behavior, his obsession was being reflected very clearly. That when the machine got destroyed and Klausner noticed it and also saw that the tree had been so badly hurt, so he asked the doctor to do some healing to the tree, to provide some ointment and to do all that bandage and all to the tree. So this was showing that he had actually gone kind of crazy about it, that he wanted to prove that he had heard the sound, the painful sound, and due to which he only could understand the pain of the tree, and therefore he wanted to seek the assistance of the doctor in providing that medical aid to the tree. So he asked the doctor to do all that, and the doctor did all that as well, being compelled by the request of this person, Klausner. And then Klausner also asked the doctor to pay a visit again another day and to make sure that the tree has started healing. So this request of Klausner to the doctor was again a very clear reflection of his obsession with the idea of the sound machine. So we can understand how this science fiction is not only revealing the fact that we as human beings have got certain limitations as to our capabilities, such as hearing capability and all, but also at the same time we can see that the writer has very beautifully shown you or manifested it to you that we as human beings um, can go mad, can go crazy, can go out of sense if we start taking things instead of passionately with obsession. There's a very slight difference between passion and obsession. As the passion, that positive energy, gets converted into a negative energy, or that feeling that we want a particular goal to be achieved under any circumstances, despite the wrong track to be taken or whatever, under such a circumstance it happens that our passion changes into obsession. And the same thing over here happens, that Klausner was no more passionate, but he had become obsessed with that idea of the sound machine. First of all, with the sound, and then the sound machine, consequently. And this was the end, that Klausner ended up being crazy and senseless, as we can see from his gesture and expression and behavior, that he had been continuously making a lot of requests to his friend, Dr. Scott, to make a visit to see the tree, that it has started healing and that it is fine now. And also he asked him to do the bandage and all. So all this is a very clear reflection. But the most important part and the beauty of this story, which was published in 1949, is that the story is not giving you a proper end, but rather leaving this completely up to you to derive an idea of your own completely in regard to this science fiction. So I hope you understood this story in just a very short summarized way, and very soon in the next video lecture most probably will be doing this story in detail. Thank you for watching.